Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Addiction and the Three Principles. I'm Greg Suki. I'm here again with Harry Durbitsky. And today we are welcoming Danielle. I met Danielle a few months ago. We started well, not we as in me and her, but I started a 3P facilitators group. And she showed up, and her level of sharing in that group was just really touching. And I definitely wanted to bring her on here to kind of expand on that. And I know she's doing some great work at Gulf Breeze Recovery. Now let's go ahead and start there. What are you up to there?
So I'm the clinical director at Gulf Breeze Recovery, which means that I oversee the program. I oversee guest care. I do training of the staff. I teach some of the groups. I helped create a family support group. Probably one of the things I'm most passionate about is helping the families and the guests come together and helping them grow together as a family unit. Helping the guests kind of see the innocence in themselves and helping the families see the innocence in addiction and that it's not personal.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
That sounds like a good thing to talk about is the family unit. I don't think we've touched on that too much in this series, is that that connection with the family and how it affects the whole family, and how it's the healing process includes the entire family. A lot of people focus on the person dealing with an addiction issue and go, oh yeah, they need to heal, they need to get over it, get past it, whatever the deal is. But the whole family's affected. So how do you approach that?
So first, it kind of occurs to me to share a little bit of my own story. So my mother struggled with addiction. She passed away about 4 years ago. And I learned a lot. And it helped me to be able to help others. It's been a long healing journey for me. And I've had several insights that have helped me see that addiction truly isn't personal. And I feel like when I talk about that with families, I can transcend that in a very special level, because I have this knowing within myself that it truly isn't personal. When we speak from truth, other people can hear that and they can feel that. And so through my own personal insights and growth, I share that on a different level with families where they can begin to go, well, maybe this isn't so much about me as it is just the nature of addiction or the guests struggling. And to be able to see on both sides, it's so powerful that this innocent behavior, that it becomes they do this and then I do that. And then you kind of get caught up in this pattern. And even when our guests start to get better and healthy, there's still this comfort in engaging in the old behaviors because it's all we knew. That's all that we were used to. And so then helping families see that change, while it may be uncomfortable, can be a really good thing, and how to step into that and really embrace it. And to just be okay that things are going to look a little bit different. And innocently, I think the families can kind of try to control things that they can't really control. And so by them understanding that about inside out and outside in, and that their inner wisdom, and learning to trust that and stop trying to control the guests and control things that are out of their power, that changes the relationship by nature. And as our guests begin to change and they begin to react differently to their family members, that changes. You can't change anybody else, but you can change what you do. You can change how you react. And that's going to change your relationship, often on a very fundamental level. If you're in an argument with somebody and you choose to not yell at them, you choose to walk away, you choose to act different, you're not going to feel bad. You're not going to feel shame. You're not going to feel these emotions, and you haven't stood there and listened to them say things that were going to be hurtful either. It's like you can stop that chain. And so when both the guests and the family get educated, then it's like you got two chances to stop that damage, and you've got two chances to preserve. I talk a lot about boundaries. When people hear the word boundaries, they go, oh no, that's a negative, that's a rule. But it's really about preservation. It's really about going within and asking yourself, what do I need to preserve my relationship with my family, with my friends? It's common sense. The three principles is really, it's common sense, but we've gotten caught up in these patterns and these habits that are innocent, but they really don't serve us. And so gaining insight into that, like, oh, I don't have to engage them when I'm in a low mood anymore. Oh, I don't have to say things I really don't mean, and being able to identify our thoughts for what it is, that this is our thinking that shows up when we're in a low space. This is our thinking that's habitual, and while it looks really real, that doesn't mean that it's true. And I think with family, there's so many layers of thought. Like, somebody can say, oh, you're worthless, and we take that and we make that mean a lot of things. If our mother says it, guy in the street says it that's homeless, it rolls right off our back, right? It's the same thing that's being said to us, but because it's family, we put this extra meaning and thought, like, if they think that about us, then everybody must. And in a way, I think that our families know us least. Everybody says, oh, our families know us most. But in some ways, our family is seeing us through their lens, their experience, their ego, and how they want to see us. And even when we make changes, it can be hard for the family to see us with a fresh new perspective. And I see that people in addiction struggle with that because they see that maybe, our staff or friends or other people see a difference, and they really so desperately want their family to notice and to see. And it can just take a little while for that to catch up.
Yeah, and expectations really do cause the vast majority of suffering.
Yeah.
We create that story about somebody, and if they're not matching that story, then it creates that feeling of something being wrong. There's something that needs to be fixed, when that's not true. I mean, when I first got sober, it took probably 2 or 3 years for a lot of my family to finally realize that I was changing, that something was different. They were still expecting that same old behavior, and that's perfectly understandable. I mean, I tell people this, like, I trained them how to respond to me and what to expect from me. So I did that over a number of years, and it's going to take some time to kind of retrain them in a way, sort of, just by my actions and how I just live my life. That proves it right there. That's all that's needed. Just a little time and just, sticking to what you know now. And that's the innocence. You want to touch a little bit more on the innocence and the impersonal of it? Kind of how you view that?
Sure. So I think our society as a whole innocently trains us to look outside ourselves to feel good. The top medications right now are, antidepressants that are prescribed. You feel bad, take this pill. Okay. You need the latest iPhone. You need to buy this. You need to go here. You need to. And so it perpetuates this need that we're thinking that we're not good enough, that we have. The comparison is what really can kill us, to compare to somebody else or something else. And it creates this idea that we need something outside of ourselves to feel good, which just isn't true. We have everything we need within us. So innocently in our society, we're learning to look outside. We're learning that really our feelings aren't okay, and here's how you numb them or deal with them. And so I would say that most people in our society look to do that in some way. They look to zone out on Facebook, on their phone, to binge watch Netflix, to lay on the couch, to sleep, with sex, with codependency, and looking to relationships for somebody else to make them happy. which there's a lot of family dynamics I could get into there around, addiction too. On the other side, it's probably a conversation for a whole nother day, as much as I can say about that. But, um, uh, there's so many ways in which we think this thing outside of us is what makes us happy or gives us relief. And so with drugs and alcohol, I feel like people get a bad rap because it's a different consequence. Often there's legal issues or more significant issues. But, gosh, look at our health and how many people are innocently addicted to food and to sugar and to, and it causes other symptoms. So, okay, so I'll share. When I was in the hospital with my mom, she passed pretty quickly, but it was within about 10 days. And we really didn't have much notice in that. And she had really been pretty mean and pretty callous and had said some really hurtful things to me and my family over the years. And I had struggled on and off with forgiveness with her. And so there was a moment when I was in the hospital, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen anybody that struggled with cirrhosis, but she was just really puffy, her arms, she was black and blue and brown spots on her stomach, and she just couldn't flush out the fluids. And so I had this moment when I looked at her and I just saw the total innocence in her behavior. And it was like, how can anything that she had ever done have anything to do with me if she was in this state? And how could anybody choose to want their body and their self to be in this state? And so it was just such a powerful moment to me. And when I talk about transcending that knowing, to know this wasn't personal. This wasn't about me. She wasn't drinking to hurt me. She wasn't saying those things to hurt me. And nor did she mean to be so destructive to herself. It's not like we wake up and want to harm ourselves every day. There's an innocence in it. It looks like that this thing outside of us is what's giving us relief. And it looks like we need that. And after a period of time of doing it, if you don't do this thing, then you've developed a physical dependence. So you're sick, you're throwing up, you're vomiting, you're shaking. And so your best thinking in that moment is, sure, let me have a drink or use this substance so I'm not violently ill. And that's what makes sense in that moment. Now, when you sober up and you get some reflection and you look back, sure, it's easy to judge and go, why could I do all the things that I did? But when you're in it, it looks different. We're all doing the best that we can in the moment. And as we get clarity and understanding, and as we have a higher level of consciousness, as we see things different, then we do things differently. But, all of us have probably had sleep deprivation, and an hour of sleep, things look completely different than when you have a full night's sleep. And sometimes biologically or other things are going on that you're just not your best self. And that's okay. Your best today and your best tomorrow and your best next week may look different. And coming back to that judging, the less that we judge that, the happier that we'll be. The less that we judge ourselves and our thinking and our actions, the more present we can be to move through what we're going through, the less that we'll have on our mind. And the easier it will be to hear our wisdom and to sort through what to do next.
I kind of see it a little bit like it's a spiritual test. We have these situations where we're coming out of our image that we haven't done very well. And then we're given tests, spiritual tests, like our family, and because they have their images and so on. And it's very easy to get tripped up, but if you've had a true insight, you're going to be experiencing it from a different level. But it's still a test that we have. And every time we pass the test, it gives us confidence that we're heading in the right direction. And then we drop our own images of what we're seeing. Because of course, thought creates an image that's obvious, you know, to anybody in this room here. And that image drives our desires. And so we, as we pass the test with the family and different things, we gather confidence in ourselves, confidence in that it's a spiritual feeling inside of ourselves rather than an intellectual or system that's saving us. It's because in the end we always have to look back inside ourselves.
I love that. I love that. I see it. I call it lessons, but very, very similar. Yeah.
It's beautiful because actually it's the greatest gift in the universe.
Yeah.
I have rough spots. What a surprise. Yeah.
You? I haven't seen any.
And as you get through that lesson or test, it gives you that little bit of faith that, well, I got through that, so maybe I have the health and resilience to get through the next thing and the next thing.
And that's what gives us the confidence that this is a real thing, like the three principles. It's not just a better mousetrap or a little bit better than the 12 steps. It's coming from inside us. And that's the only thing that saves me, because of course I have Mr. Noisy happening as well as everybody else here. So, every day when I get up in the morning, I can hear Mr. Noisy saying that. But the proof is that is when it's just a illusion. I walk into a good feeling, and that gives me faith that what I have, who I am, is good enough. And one thing else you alluded to, one of the things that I have found, Danielle, is the image of addiction is the hardest thing for people. The family have this image. So whenever I have to deal with anybody in family, they have such a strong image that the only result is to get rid of the addiction. And you know as well as I do that it's more of a personal story, experience. Yeah. When I hear what Greg went through, he didn't just change in addiction. He changed in the totality of who he is. And I love that part of addiction, because really part of the journey is to get your head out of I'm addicted.
Yeah. And of course we talk about addiction at our treatment center, but it's not the core focus, because we see that as a symptom. It's the core problem is that people don't really see themselves for who they are. That one of the first things that we tell people when they come in is that you're not broken and we're not here to fix you. We help people see that light and health that's already within them. We keep pointing them back to that so that they can begin to see it within themselves. One of the things I think that scares people when we tell them you have everything you need, that you have the wisdom within yourself and that you can trust yourself, is they go, well, no, I can't. Look at all these bad decisions that I've made. Look at all the stuff that's happened. I need somebody else to tell me. But to be able to get them quiet to see, well, maybe they do have that health and resilience, and maybe that wisdom has been there all along, and maybe that voice was trying to tell them when they were off course, but they just didn't recognize it or see it for what it is. And as you talked about, Harry, those having those tests or those lessons, so as they're in treatment and they see a little bit of like, ooh, okay, I heard something or saw something and I trusted that and that worked out. And then they see it again on a little bit bigger scale, learning that they can really trust that and that they can, trust themselves, and having that faith and knowing that no matter what happens, whatever comes at them, that they truly have the health and resilience to deal with it without anything outside of them.
And the change. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big part of the struggle that people have with addiction, is that our wisdom is trying to tell us that we're on we're on the wrong path. Like you said, we get that feeling, and it's not a good feeling to have. It's uncomfortable. And most people in addiction tend to just reach out for an escape rather than looking at the problem. It's just, oh, I don't like how I'm feeling, but I know if I get drunk or I get high or I eat too much junk food or whatever, at least for that night, I'll feel better. I can forget about that feeling and push it off for another day. You know, and so the addiction part of it is really a symptom, like you said earlier. It's not the cause. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to kind of wrap their head around it at first, is that the addiction is not the problem. It was the solution. It just happened to not be a very good one. You know? So getting at that root cause and realizing that, I mean, I think the word recovery is actually a pretty good term, because you can't recover something that isn't there. You're getting back to your core self, back to your true self.
Yeah. And sometimes I think for our guests, it's helping them see that that true self was there all along, and to help them to kind of develop that and learn to live from that. I think one of the side effects that comes with addiction is that people have this belief, you talked about expectations earlier, that they have to do everything that everybody else wants them to do, that they have to have a career or a life that their family wants them to have, or that they have to take everybody else's advice. And so in that, they haven't been listening to their wisdom and their own inner guidance for a very long time. And when you continue to say no to yourself and yes to other things, we go back to that, those boundaries, your body's speaking to you. It's letting you know. It's giving you feedback. We've got this intelligence within us. And so we misunderstand what this intelligence is telling us and innocently think we have to, numb it or shut it down. But it's there to help us. It's there to guide us. And if we only understand it for what it is and learn to listen, that this is saying, oh no, you're a little off track here. That your body's trying to let you know that, no, that doesn't really fit for me. That doesn't resonate. But we get the idea that maybe, innocently, that our family won't love us, or if we don't do these things. And so then we fall into what they think we need instead of what we know that we need. And then so often when I'm on the other side of it and I sit down with the families and I do family sessions and I talk to them, at the core of it, people's families just want them to be happy and healthy. And so innocently, the family members have tried to do all these things to control or create that outcome or to fix something that they didn't know how to fix. And so, the outcome is that both people want the same thing. It's just often a lack of communication. One of the other big things we talk about with the guest is how to show up, how to be vulnerable, and how to share and be open and have healthy conversations where they're heartfelt and that you communicate heart to heart with somebody. Instead of saying, I want it this way and I want it that way, and but just to really be able to say, I've been searching within myself, and here's what I feel is true or what I need, and how when we can share our deepest desires with others and move into that vulnerability, how that can have huge impact and shift our relationships too. But there's some fumbling and some uncomfortableness in that on both sides as you move into that too.
Right.
It's like I talk about families will say, I just want him to tell me the truth and just be honest with me. And I'll say, okay, do you really want him to tell you the truth? Do you really want? Then let's make some space for the truth, because sometimes the truth is a little bit uncomfortable, and sometimes in addiction, particularly, we're used to them telling us what we want to hear so we can be okay as the family member, but we're really not okay. It's a misunderstanding again. And so to be able to kind of break free of those old patterns.
One of the dynamics that I've experienced with our clients that I have right now is the person who is addicted, to use that as a phrase, because I don't really look at it like that, is will not trust me, but will not listen to me. But they will listen to their partner. The partner is actually the helper, and I'm kind of the whatever, just off on the side there. And so primarily I'm working with the partner to help, because that's the only one that person, the partner will actually listen to. Now you could say that's my fault or whatever, but it isn't. It's just the dynamic of the moment. And what you're doing with families is actually, I can see it has a second side effect, in the sense that if the parent or the family member gets a piece of this wisdom, they'll help in many ways more than you will, not because you're not sharing your whole heart, but just because they trust that person. That person is the most important person in their life. The mother or the father or the mate, is really more important than the counselor.
Yeah. And, I see the flip side of that, where the spouse or the parent doesn't trust our guests. And so our guests have this insight and they want to share, and it's so wonderful. And the family's kind of resentful, like, don't try to tell me what to do, And so that's where I can kind of come in and mediate and help.
That would be fabulously important.
Yeah. And being a younger female in a supervisory position, I find myself sometimes where it doesn't matter how somebody hears it, whether I've got to give feedback to staff or guests, but there's careful consideration to me of how is this person best going to hear that? And if I can take myself and my ego out of that situation, I'm happy to confront or address an issue if I need to be the one that does that. But if they're better going to hear it from their counselor, great. If their counselor addresses it, maybe it's going to damage rapport, and maybe I need to address it. Or maybe it's an older male that has issues with younger females. I don't care as long as the message can get conveyed. That's all that matters. And so I try to consider, how can this person best have room for insight? And you can't control all those variables, but I just have it as a piece in my mind to just be mindful about how would they best hear that, because sometimes we do have to have difficult conversations, or we just want to share something. And timing too, like when you have those conversations, if somebody's in a low mood and shut down, probably not going to hear you. When you got to have those hard conversations with a family member, wait till you're in a good space, wait till they're in a good space, and then try to engage it. And if you get stuck, maybe you come back and talk about it a little later after you've had some time. Yeah, I think we can get caught up on, and I've seen this where people have worked with other people in the three principle community, and or people struggle or have a relapse or whatever, and you can innocently take that on as like, oh, well, that was my client or whatever. But this is really about sharing and letting go of those expectations. And you're planting seeds, and you never know when somebody's going to hear something. And maybe you say the same thing somebody else does, and they don't hear it from you, and they hear it from somebody else. At Gulfbreeze Recovery, our classroom is designed so that we're all saying the same thing, pointing at the same thing, but there's lots of us that are saying it with a little bit of our own style and flair and personality, so that people have that opportunity to hear something different. Sometimes it's just a different face or space that gives that person some room. So, yeah.
That's great. And I just want to take a quick moment here to remind everybody, I just have you muted to keep down a background noise. So if you have a question or a comment or anything, please feel free to either unmute yourself or there's a raise hand feature in the participants tab. If you just click on that, we'll get you on here. We want to have a good conversation here. This has been wonderful so far, Danielle. I'm really glad I asked you to join us.
Yeah, well, it's such an honor. Thank you.
You're going to be a great addition to the series here. There's a lot of people watching the YouTube channel, and I get a lot of feedback on it. People are loving what we're doing here, and we love that we can offer it for free too, which is great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great work. I know one of the struggles for our guests at Golf Breeze Recovery is that a lot of them may not resonate with the AA or 12-step, and they've come to our facility because they're looking for something different. And there's just not as much of the support as they have in the 12-step community. And so the more resources available to them, I think is awesome, and to everybody in the three principle community.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you talk, Danielle, one thing that has impressed me about Gulf Breeze is their detox program.
Sure.
It looks kind of luxurious, to say the, and I hate to mention the word expensive, to go, yeah. But it looks, if I was in where I needed to detox, I would have to say that would be right at the top of the list of support. It looked quite delicious.
Sure, yeah. So we have nurses on staff 24/7. We've got a medical director who's an addictionologist, and then we've got lots of counselors, and somebody's available at any point, even if a counselor is in the building, or we're on call and available should something come up. But when the guests first come in, they go into a detox room. Our medical director has determined protocols to help them. And so basically we want them to feel comfortable. We want them to feel safe. We want them to get rested. We've got outstanding chefs. One of our chefs came from a 5-star restaurant in town. So eat good food. Yeah, and we as staff, we get to eat there too. It's pretty nice. So, so when they first come in the door, they're kind of just resting and getting well. And so then when we transfer them out, one of the things that we incorporated maybe 3 years ago into our program was neurofeedback. So basically, from using substances, the brain's natural default system is altered. So for activities like maybe reading, your brain waves can come on for sleep. So parts of your brain become either underactive or overactive. And so that can get in the way of you paying attention. The other thing that neurofeedback is helpful for is it's helpful for sleep. So we all know that it's easier to concentrate, pay attention if we are getting good rest, and it helps with symptoms of depression, anxiety. So the goal is that we do 12 sessions within the first week, because that's what the research is based on, basically to help the guests get in a space where they feel physically better and that they can be able to pay attention and take in the information easier. All the while in the afternoon, they're getting started with their counselors. We do counseling twice a week. They're doing an hour of reflection, reading, or meditation a day, and then afternoon and evening classes. And then we move into the sauna portion, where they're getting opportunity for exercise, goal setting, and it's helping to sweat out the toxins in their body. Again, we're trying to get them to a space where they feel good. And then after they've moved through that, that's when they get into the morning classes. So the morning classes are really the heart of our program. We show SID tapes and process some of that, and we just really get into the meat of the three principles and get into a deeper understanding of what the guests need to just move forward and live a happy, healthy life, and to look in that direction. And so it's kind of a process that evolves for people to help them begin to really see their true nature and their health.
It's of course Sid's dream to see something like that happen.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, he always loved when people went from suffering to freedom of
Mm-hmm.
the principles offer. And what is often lost is how Sid loved the poor and the people who are on the street, and so it was a very big thrust, especially at the beginning of the movement of truth, as uncovered by Sid. But your program is developed within the culture of society, and it's certainly hitting at what I consider to be one of the absolutely most misunderstood areas of society. And it's beautiful to hear, people can actually get comfortable and real help.
Yeah. We also have an art therapist and recreational therapist. So we want people to be able to see just the commonness of everyday life, as Sid would talk about, and to be able to know that they can enjoy their life and be happy, free of substances, and to be able to explore those passions and hobbies and activities, and just see that they can just be and just enjoy. And again, not need something outside of themselves. Part of our program has a little bit of downtime in it, so that the guests have opportunity to reflect and to get comfortable with themselves, because wherever they go, there they are, and to be able to learn to be with themselves and be happy and enjoy that, and to see that as a spiritual gift. So I love questions. Does anybody have questions? It could be three principle related, addiction, families, whatever kind of comes to you. I'm happy to give it a shot. Any specific topics you want me to speak to a little bit? Anything that I said that you want me to elaborate on a little bit?
Well, the one
Catherine
topic,
has her hand up.
oh, good.
Yep, where'd you go? There you go. You are, I clicked unmute. It's not letting me unmute you, Catherine, for some reason. Can you go ahead and?
I think I did.
Yep, there you go.
Hi, Danielle. It's
Hi.
really nice to meet you.
Me too.
Boy, is it ever hopeful hearing what you're doing there at Gulf Breeze. Thanks for being here. It's really uplifting, and it just is so hopeful to see not only what a holistic approach you're offering, but then the critical piece of the three principle understanding underpins the nutrition and the exercise, and I love the creativity piece too, because for people to be able to begin to express that, I think is also really very healing. I'm wondering how large your facility is and what the intake process is like.
So,
And what's the average length of the program? So are you a residential treatment center? And just a little bit about the number of people you have and what your intake process is like, please.
sure. We have 30-bed facility, 25 residential, 5 detox beds. It's about an 8-week program for most people. We do have a 90-day option for those that are interested or feel they need a little bit longer term treatment. The age is 21 and up. We get guests from all over different age ranges, and we've just felt that age range was appropriate. Some of the younger guests when we were taking 18, 19-year-olds, would have some conflict with maybe some that were a little bit older in their 50s or 60s. We do male and female guests. We are not a dual diagnosis facility, so we screen to make sure that substance use is the primary issue. Now, along with addiction, pretty much, most people, you're going to see some anxiety or some depression or things like that. So we have a series of questions we just ask to make sure that that the guests can be monitored at our level of care. We're not set up for, we have a nurse that's there 24/7, but as far as if there's serious complicated medical issues or you're not ambulatory, things like that. We do take insurance, and depending on what room you would be in the facility would determine the cost. We have some that are shared rooms, we have some that are private, and then we have some that are private waterfront, and we've got one that's a high-end suite. And our costs for the program, depending range, I roughly don't hold me exactly, but depending on the room that you would, as low as about $30,000, and then up depending on if you wanted a nicer room. Which, when you look at the average cost of treatment, about $15,000 a month is under what a lot of the treatment centers are. I know, at least in Florida.
How did the three principles become a part of, so integrated into what's happening at Gulf Breeze? I'm so curious about how that happened.
It was the plan from the beginning. So the owner of the facility had worked in other treatment centers, and he had seen that when people have insight, that things change and they shift, and that's how they get well. So he kind of searched for a modality that was going to help people be able to do that. And then he ran across Debbie Trent. She was our previous clinical director, some of her work and some of the things regarding the principles. And then before we even opened, Joe Bailey got involved. And so he's been involved with our program from the beginning. I did training with him before the facility even opened. So he trains our staff, anywhere from the chefs and the housekeepers all the way up to counselors and administration. We do Zoom meetings like this bi-weekly, either as a team or we schedule certain individuals. And then he comes down twice a year and does a retreat, which is amazing. We go to a beach house. So, the beautiful thing to me about the principles too, and to be blessed to work in a work environment, is that self-care is of utmost importance, and being selfish and getting this for yourself so that you can share with other people and connect. And so it's kind of like the healthier you are and the better that you see it, the more you have to give.
I love that. It's so true. And often missing, your joy comes through, and I'm sure that all of your clients feel that, and that love that's coming from your heart. When I worked in a facility with mental health patients or clients with mental health and addictions, the quality of our presence was the first thing that was felt. And clients always responded to that. And the happier we were, and the more we were in a healthy place, the more we had to share. So I'm sure it's really cool to see. I worked with a lot of people who are really burnt out, really unhappy, and it's really awesome and really wonderful to see a facility that's taking care of the staff, and the staff is coming from this place. So thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yeah. Like, one of the things for me that just I feel like fills my soul is to be able to travel. And so the facility is gracious enough to offer me that opportunity to be able to travel. And I always feel like I come back so just refreshed and recharged. with more to offer again, you know, when I come back. And I love doing it for my staff too, when they need time off or need to take care of themselves. It's like, take care of yourself, you know. And we're lucky enough to have staff. We have enough staff where it's part-time, where we can some of those can kind of cover for each other, and just really having built that environment and cultivated that environment too, where the staff want to do for each other and want to be available for our guests. It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. Yeah, thanks for your questions, Catherine. We also have Russell with his hand up. So let me unmute you if I can. There you go. Go ahead, Russell.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for this program. I'm relatively brand new to the three principal ideas, and I was interested because there was a lot of questions in my mind about other sorts of addictions, such as porn, sexual addiction, food, gambling. I'm just wondering if it all lumps into the same basket, or is it something that is that people come for these other types of addictions, and is the three principal idea just as helpful for that as well?
So for our treatment center specifically, you have to have a substance diagnosis of alcohol or drugs to come. But often we very much see pornography, gambling, other things as secondary. And so in a sense, yes, you treat it all the same. It's all innocently looking outside ourselves and thinking that this thing is what's making us happy. And our ego has kind of identified with that, and then we get some relief in that. And so innocently, it looks like that's the answer when it's not. And so helping to guide people back to their health, yeah, it's all very much the same. And as I spoke earlier, just that innocence of our society in general, who tries to numb in some way. And, you know, coming back to somehow I think our society has been trained that it's not okay to feel our feelings. And so we look for some way to numb our feelings. But to know that we have the health and resilience to be able to feel our feelings, to know that our feelings are temporary, and to know that they'll pass. It's like it's cloudy outside. We don't have to do anything about that. We don't have to get out there and part the clouds and make the sun come out. We can't, right? And the more that we try to part the clouds, the more frustration we're going to feel. And you know, we can curl up on the couch, enjoy a good book, and know and have faith that that sun is going to come back out, and there's nothing to do about it. And the less attention we give, the less power we give to it, the more quickly it will pass. So it's very much about, you know, learning to just get comfortable experiencing our emotions and really knowing that they can't hurt us. So I see anxiety often as a resistance of the emotions in the moment. And so as we can just get present in the moment, that allows for those emotions to come up. And sometimes those emotions aren't even as scary as the anxiety that we were feeling, if we can just be present with it. Again, our body's a very innate instrument that is constantly giving us feedback. And sometimes we just misunderstand what that feedback is. Like now, if I experience some anxiety, to me, it's often an indicator that I just need to slow down a little bit, that maybe I'm trying to do things, that my mind's going a little bit fast, instead of, oh no, something's wrong, or oh no, I have to do something about this.
Can I add something here?
Sure.
Yeah. Your question, Russell, actually is something that I have looked at quite a bit in my own consciousness to try and get an understanding. Because in the three principles, it answers all the questions to all levels of addiction, and it's always, in the end, the same answer. But with it, so I look at it like it's all ice cream. And when you're talking about ice cream, the three principles aptly describe it. Then we have different flavors of ice cream. And it seems to me, and this is just a personal opinion, this is not truth or anything, but it seems to me it's good to know whether you're eating vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, or pornography or drugs. They have a language and a feeling that is associated with it. And while I don't want to be inundated with that's the answer, the description of the vanilla, I do need to know what the flavor tastes like. And so I've wrestled with your question actually in my own mind of how that works. And how do you see that, Greg? Do you understand what I mean? Do you like there's
yeah, I see it as the different choices in addiction are really just symptoms of the same cause, which is ultimately insecurity. Is really what it ultimately comes down to. We feel insecure, we feel a way we don't like to feel, and whatever chemical or action or whatever we participate in helps us to feel better for a time. But the problem is eventually, especially with like chemicals, you build up a tolerance and they become less effective. So it's not a long-term solution. It is a solution, it's just not a good one. So the true solution is realizing that everybody has this innocent, simple misunderstanding of where our experience of life actually comes from. It's taught to us by society. It's all well meant. It's all innocent. You know, our parents, our friends, our teachers, our coworkers, they teach us how to respond to life. And since they don't know how to, they're teaching us incorrectly. And we believe it because, oh, that's my dad. You know, my dad wouldn't lead me wrong. Or that's my boss. He really cares about me and wants to see me do well. So he's trying to help me. You know, so then we kind of just go along with what the people around us believe. And most people never take that inward look to see, what do I really believe? What am I really looking at here? Why am I feeling so insecure to the point where I feel like I need to go have sex with a random stranger to feel better? Or I need to sit down at my computer for an hour and watch pornography, or go gambling, or put that drink in me, or that drug, or whatever it is. You know, and I had issues with almost all that stuff. I mean, you know, so it's not, I can't look at each individual thing like that as being the problem. Those are all solutions to a problem that we just don't understand. And the three principles are what pulled that all together for me and made me see the truth behind all of those habits and addictive behaviors that I'd exhibited over the years. And that's why a lot of people, you know, they'll get into a program for, you know, alcohol. And next thing you know, they're smoking cigarettes, or they're drinking a ton of coffee. They're kind of overdoing it on caffeine. They're trading addictions and never really getting to that core cause because they're so focused on the symptom. And we all know that just because you took Dayquil doesn't mean you don't have a cold, right? You know, but if you actually could get to the root cause of the cold and solve that, that will get rid of the symptoms even better and faster than any of the medications on the market. So that's what we're looking at. We're getting to that core cause that causes people to reach out for something outside of them to try to find relief. Does that make sense, Russell?
That's perfect. Thank you so much. It answers a lot of questions, and so thank you.
And big thing, Russell, the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody, if you're trying to kind of get rid of unhealthy habits and stuff, be gentle with yourself. It is a process. Yes, we can instantly wake up and have an insight, and it changes literally every aspect of our life. but that doesn't always happen for everybody all the time. So in the meantime, when you've made some progress and then maybe you backslide a little bit and have a relapse or something, it doesn't mean anything, except that you've built up this habit over the years and you went back to it. It doesn't mean you're back to whatever. I'm not back to drinking because I had a drink. You know what I mean? I'm not back to getting high because I took a hit off of a joint that was being passed around at a place I was at or something. It doesn't mean anything except that you just innocently went back to what you're used to. So be gentle with yourself. That is one of the biggest things that we can do, is love ourselves and be gentle with ourselves in this process of, I mean, really, literally changing every aspect of our lives. And that sounds like a monumental task, but it really isn't. It's one simple change in thought. It's like Sid said, we're only ever one single thought away from an entirely new experience of life. And that's such a beautiful thing, because we don't have to wait for things and people to change for us to change.
Tony, how do you see that? Tony works with homeless people, among other people. How do you see all of that in context to what we're talking about?
You're unmuted now. There you go.
Do not work with homeless people. I wasn't sure you were talking to me.
Oh, actually, you're not the Tony I thought it was.
Okay. Actually, a former guest from Gulf Breeze, Danielle, invited me today.
Oh, okay. Well, how do you see?
Yeah, what was your experience attending Gulf Breeze?
I had a great experience there. It's a top-notch facility. Danielle is actually my counselor. Got nothing but good things to say about the place. I recommend it to everyone that I know who needs to go. But fairly new to all this. What you had just said, Greg, really kind of hit home for me.
We're glad to have you here, Tony.
Glad to be here.
Oh, beautiful stuff. What feelings. Wow. Tony, it's the feelings, and you just poured it out. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really great place. I've actually been there twice now. Hopefully I don't have to go back again, but if I did, I definitely would. I don't know what else to say about it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank
you. Tony, it's a journey. That's all I know. It's just a journey. And there are no rights and wrongs, but it's beautiful that your heart and your wisdom has pointed you, well, I guess I'd say in a direction that has opened you up.
Yeah. I've had a lot of help heading that way.
Yeah, but you can't experience it without it being in you.
Right.
That's the key. It didn't come from Danielle or anybody else at Gulf Breeze. It came from you. All they did was help you to be open to seeing it.
Pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah, inside. The one direction we almost never want to look.
Place to go.
Yeah. I'm definitely glad you're here. It's good to see you.
Glad to be here.
I mean, you're the reason we have this show, Tony, is because, you know, I like that Danielle might use the resource we have and so on. But the real truth is the reason Greg and I started the show was we were hoping it would help people point in the right direction and touch their own hearts to see that it's a much easier journey when you open up to the love inside yourself. And I can feel you have. I don't mean everything is perfect, but wow, you've opened up in a way that I wish more people in this universe would open up. I mean it. If they opened up like you opened up, this world would be totally changed. The whole world would be totally changed.
Nobody deserves your love and compassion more than you do.
Before we finish, there's been a theme in this show that Dr. Bob Sullivan gave a brilliant talk in the last Golden Moments show. And he talked about when you get out of, like, our natural state when we're connected is well-being. And of course, Danielle and Greg and Catherine have greatly alluded to that. And then we have to know when we get out of balance. And what he said really hit good. It made me understand. When you get out of balance, the answer is, and he goes like this, symptoms. The symptoms are the signal that you're out of balance, and then your natural innate wisdom or intelligence pulls you back in. And he says, you're not broken, you're just out of balance. And when I hear all the talks of the people, he says what happens is people misinterpret the symptoms, that it's bad, when actually it's the good stuff that lets us know. Because we have to know. Because, of course, Tony, you want to know not only how to feel good, but how to take yourself without judgment back to feeling good. And I can tell you that's a very easy journey, and you should have it solved in about 1 second. That's a joke, guys. But anyway.
So Danielle, how can people get a hold of you and Golf Breeze if they'd like to either connect with you or maybe check into your program there?
So if you wanted to visit our website, golfbreezerecovery.com, you can call me or call the facility 850-934-0790. Or if you want to email me directly, Danielle, DANIELLEG, as in go, at golfbreezerecovery.com. And I'm excited. I'll be speaking at the conference in London. So if any of you guys will be there. Also, stay tuned. Joe Bailey and I will be doing a conference, we hope, soon for families in addiction. So I'll get you that information, Greg. It's in works now, so we'll see how things work out with that. But we're hoping it comes to fruition soon.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm sure the two of you together would be just such a dynamic duo, you know?
Yeah.
So do you have any closing words of wisdom for anybody out there?
Sure. As I talked about, we see the health and wellness in others sometimes when they can't see it in themselves, and it can be the hardest thing to turn and look within. I think because people are afraid. But don't be afraid. There's some beautiful, wonderful things that are within inside of us. And as you made comment about, Tony, if we could all live from that heart-centered space, what an impact the world would have and feel. Just such a beautiful thing, that feeling. And that feeling doesn't come from other people. It comes from within us. And when we see it in other people, it's because we recognize that space within ourselves. So go live a heartfelt day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. And thanks
Yeah.
to Catherine, Russell, and Tony for joining in and participating with us. This has been a great conversation. So everybody have a wonderful day. Love y'all. And we'll see you next time.